a car that just drove up. Came to this side of the parking lot. He had actually been following Dolph on the street when Dolph turned and it went up to this light where it got stopped for a few seconds and then came around. It's a white Mercedes. There's other pictures where you'll be able to see it more clearly. But it's a white Mercedes with back end damage back here on the back passenger side of the car. It's a stolen car. It's a stolen car that our defendant here, Justin Johnson, traded for one car for another at a gas station about 10 hours before this murder happened.
Let's check this out from News 3.
Well, we are just weeks away from the highly anticipated trial for the men accused in the killing of Memphis's own young Dolph. The trial date is set for September 23rd, and still many questions remain on what the public can expect. WREG's Quimitra Wilborn spoke to prosecutors who say they anticipate a speedy trial.
The judge is announcing today that we're sticking with the trial date, and all parties need to be ready for that trial date, September 23rd.
After almost 3 years, the details surrounding the 2021 killing of Adolph Thornton Jr., known by thousands as Young Dolph, will finally be revealed. The two accused gunmen, Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith, will go to trial on September 23rd. Johnson was scheduled for a hearing Friday morning, but prosecutor Paul Hagerman says the attorneys agreed the hearing was unnecessary.
We already have a trial date. The attorneys got together beforehand, and there wasn't a need for the hearing.
Earlier this year, a judge granted Johnson a change of venue request. Therefore, the case will be heard in Shelby County, but they will bring in.
And this is Justin Johnson right here that y'all are seeing. You're going to see him a lot going into this trial too. By the way, give it up for Memphis. Doing things the right way. Making the process smooth, quick, painless, as it should be.
Together beforehand, and there wasn't a need for the hearing.
Earlier this year, a judge granted Johnson a change of venue request. Therefore, the case will be heard in Shelby County, but they will bring in outside jurors. Hagerman says they expect the trial to last only a few days.
We tend to move fast here in Memphis, so I think we're hoping to wrap this trial up in 6 or 7 days.
However, the journey to get to this point was slow. Johnson's trial was initially set to start back in June, but his attorneys told the judge that that date would not give them enough time to have their evidence reviewed by experts. Attorneys on both sides of the case have been tight-lipped regarding any details or evidence surrounding the case. We asked Hagerman how many witnesses the state plans to call forward, but he wouldn't say. However, it is believed Justin's half-brother, Jamarcus Johnson, who pled guilty last year to helping his brother escape, may be called to testify as part of his plea deal. Jamarcus Johnson and Hernandez Govan, the accused mastermind behind the killing, have both been ordered to attend the trial. It's unclear if Govan will testify. Hagerman says jury selection begins 1 week before the trial. Reporting for your news leader from the CJC, Quimitra Wilborn, WREG News, Channel 3.
And before Govan goes to trial, he is set to return to court on September 9th for a pre-trial conference.
All right, so there you go. So that's a little bit of the background. Now, there's a lot more detail that we're going to get into once we start watching the trial as to why they did it, who got them to do it, who was paid, how much they were paid, and little details like that. So y'all make sure you listen in, and we'll stop at some points and give a little bit more background as well. I'm going to play this at 1.5 speed. So if it seems like it's a little fast, y'all let me know and I can slow it down. Here we go. Again, this is Justin Johnson you're seeing right here.
Before we begin the trial, I would like to tell you a little bit about what will happen during the course of the proceedings. I want to describe basically how the trial will be conducted and what the attorneys, jurors, and the judge will be doing over the course of the trial. At the end of the trial, I will give you more detailed instructions on how you are to go about reaching your decision. But now I simply want to explain how the trial will proceed. The defendant has been charged by the state of Tennessee with a violation of state law. The document containing the charges is referred to as an indictment. An indictment is a formal accusation charging the defendant with a crime and is not evidence of anything.
How's that?
The defendant has pled not guilty to all the charges. He is presumed innocent and may not be found guilty by you unless, after hearing all of the evidence, attorney's arguments, and instructions of law, the 12 jurors seated in this case unanimously find that the state has proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. The first step in the trial will be the attorney's opening statements. The state will tell you about the evidence it intends to present so that you will have an idea what the state's case is about. This opening statement is not evidence. Its only purpose is to help you understand what the evidence will be and what the state will attempt to prove. After the state's opening statement, the defense may make an opening statement if he so chooses. Again, statements of attorneys are not evidence. Next will be the state's case in chief, in which the state will present its evidence. The evidence in the case will most likely consist of physical exhibits, documents, and the testimony of witnesses. The witnesses will testify by answering questions asked by the attorneys. After the state completes its case in chief, the defense will be given an opportunity to present evidence through witnesses and exhibits. A defendant is not required to put on any evidence or to testify. The burden is always on the state to convince you that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If the defense does present proof, the state may then put on what is known as rebuttal proof. After the state's rebuttal, the defense may put on further proof. After you have heard all of the evidence, the state and the defense may present final arguments. I previously told you that opening statements by the attorneys are not evidence. Likewise, closing arguments are not evidence. In closing arguments, the parties will attempt to summarize their cases and help you understand the evidence that was presented. The final part of the trial occurs when I instruct you about the rules of law that you are to use in reaching your verdict. After you hear my instructions, I will excuse the alternate jurors, and the final 12 jurors will leave the courtroom together as a group. You will then begin your deliberations to make a decision in the case. Your deliberations will be secret, and you will not be required to explain your verdict to anyone. Now that I have described in outline form the trial itself, let me explain the functions that you and I will perform during the trial. I will decide which rules of law apply to the case. My decisions will be reflected in my responses to questions and objections the attorneys raised during the trial, as well as in my final instructions. It is your job to determine what the facts are from the evidence. You must then apply the law in my instructions to the facts, and from that application, you will arrive at your verdict. The state has the burden of proving the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt, and this burden remains on the state throughout the entire case. Keep in mind that the defendant is presumed to be innocent of the charges against him. Thus, the defendant is not required to prove his innocence, to have his attorney make any statements or arguments, or to produce any evidence. You as jurors must decide whether the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant has committed the crimes charged in the indictment. You must base that decision only on the evidence in the case and my instructions about the law. An important part of your job will be making judgments about the testimony of the witnesses who testify. You should decide whether you believe what each person says and the importance of his or her testimony. In making that decision, I suggest that you ask yourself
get good here in a minute.
Did the person impress you as honest? Did he or she have any particular reason not to tell the truth? Did he or she have a personal interest in the outcome of the case? Did the witness seem to have a memory of the events he or she testified about? Did the witness have the opportunity and ability to observe accurately the things he or she testified about? Did he or she appear to understand the questions clearly and answer them directly? Did a witness's testimony differ from the testimony of other witnesses? These are a few of the considerations that will help you determine the accuracy of each witness's testimony. In making up your mind and reaching a verdict, do not base any decision on the fact that there were more witnesses on one side than on the other. Likewise, do not reach a conclusion on a particular point just because more witnesses testified for one side on that point. Your job is to think about the testimony of each witness you heard and decide the facts. Some of you have probably heard the terms circumstantial evidence and direct evidence. These are the two basic types of evidence that exist in law. Direct evidence is direct proof of a fact, such as the testimony of an eyewitness.
Toasting the jury up.
Circumstantial evidence is proof of facts from which you may infer or conclude that other facts exist. I will give you further instructions on these as well as other matters at the end of the case. Keep in mind that you may consider both kinds of evidence, which are considered to be of equal value in the law. The court will not provide you with a transcript of the testimony at the end of the trial. Therefore, you must listen very carefully to the testimony. Each of you will be allowed to take notes during the trial for your own use during your deliberations. You are not required to take notes. Independent memory can be as accurate as written notes. During the course of the trial, you should not talk with any witness, defendant, or an attorney involved in this case. Please do not talk with them about any subject matter whatsoever. You may see them in the hallway, on an elevator, or at some other location. If you do,
they're getting right into it.
The rule is to not say anything.
So
You
that's a
also
fat
should not
daddy.
discuss this case among yourselves until I instruct you on the law and you start deliberating at the end of the case. It is important that you wait until all the evidence is received and you have heard all of my instructions on the rules of law before you deliberate among yourselves. During the course of the trial, you will receive all of the evidence you may properly consider to decide the case. Because of this, you should not attempt to do any research on your own or gather any information on your own that you think might be helpful. I do not know if there will be any media reports in the newspaper, on television, on the radio about this case. You are not permitted to read, watch, or listen to any reports. You as jurors must base your decision solely on the evidence you hear in the courtroom. At times during the trial, an attorney may make an objection to a question that is asked by another attorney or to an answer that a witness may give. This simply means that the attorney is requesting that I make a decision on a particular rule of law. Do not draw any conclusions from the fact that an objection was made or from my ruling on that objection. My rulings only relate to the legal questions that I must determine and should not influence your thinking. If I sustain an objection to a question, the witness will not be permitted to answer the question. Do not attempt to guess what the answer might have been had the witness been permitted to give it. Similarly, if I tell you not to consider a particular response that was made or statement that was made, you should put that statement out of your mind and you may not refer to that statement in your later deliberations.
All right, get it, Judge.
You may not ask questions. It is your responsibility it is the responsibility of the attorneys to present the evidence. You must decide the case on the evidence presented to you. Finally, during the course of the trial, I may have to interrupt the proceedings to confer with the attorneys about the rules of law that should apply. In some cases, we may have bench conferences in the courtroom outside of your hearing. And in some instances, I may ask you to retire to the jury room while we discuss a matter out of your presence. I will try to avoid as many of these interruptions as possible. We will try to resolve some of these things in the morning before we get started. I ask your patience because these interruptions are necessary points in the trial where we have to resolve legal issues. In the long run, they save time for us all. If after your deliberations, you find the defendant guilty of any offense, the court will set the punishment at a separate sentencing hearing. The jury will not be involved in setting the punishment. This completes my opening comments to you. We will now proceed with the reading of the indictment.
All right, here's what we wanted to get into. So now we're going to hear everything that they're charged with. It's going to be interesting.
Indictment 22-04769, State of Tennessee versus Justin Johnson. It's an indictment in 3 counts. Count 1 is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count 2 is murder first degree. And count 3 is convicted felon in possession of a firearm.
Convicted felon, of course.
This is count 1 of the indictment.
Hey.
State of Tennessee, Criminal Court, Shelby County, September term of 2022, count 1. The grand jurors of the state of Tennessee duly selected, impaneled, sworn, and charged to inquire for the body of the county of Shelby, Tennessee. Upon their oath, present that Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, and Jermarcus Johnson, between June the 1st of 2021 and March the 1st of 2022, in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the finding of this indictment, did unlawfully, intentionally, with premeditation, and with the intent to commit the offense of first-degree murder, as classified in Tennessee Code Annotated 3913-202, against the person of Adolph Thornton Jr., enter into an agreement with each other.
Yeah, these guys don't like using mics.
The said Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, and Jermarcus Johnson, acting for the purpose of promoting or facilitating the commission of the said offense, and agreeing that one or more of them would engage in conduct which constitutes the said offense. In furtherance of said conspiracy, one or more of the parties to the conspiracy committed an overt act, to wit, Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, traveled to 2370 Airways Boulevard and killed Adolph Thornton Jr. Cornelius Smith traveled to 2370 Airways Boulevard and killed Adolph Thornton Jr. Hernandez Govan solicited both Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith to kill Adolph Thornton Jr. Jamarcus Johnson aided Justin Johnson.
So let's slow it down a little bit and rewind. So there was the two guys that carried it out. That's Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson. And then there's the gentleman who planned everything
and killed Adolph Thornton Jr. Hernandez Govan solicited both Justin Johnson.
Hernandez Gomez. So he's the one who planned everything. And from what I understand, he's the one that got paid. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Good morning.
Also known as Straight Drop and Cornelius Smith to kill Adolph Thornton Jr. Jamarcus Johnson aided in Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop's, hideout and escape after the killing of.
So Justin Johnson's brother helped him not only escape, but hid him from the police.
Adolph Thornton Jr. aided communication between Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith after the killing of Adolph Thornton Jr. and facilitated payments to Cornelius Smith for the killing of Adolph Thornton Jr.
Okay, so yeah, he got the money and then he paid Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith.
All of which is in violation.
He being Mr. Gomez.
Tennessee Code annotated 3912-103 against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee.
Govan, excuse me.
Signed by the District Attorney General for the 30th Judicial District. Count 2. State of Tennessee, Criminal Court, Shelby County, September term 2022. The grand jurors of the state of Tennessee, duly selected and paneled, sworn and charged to inquire for the body of the county of Shelby, Tennessee. Upon their oath, present that Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, Cornelius Smith, Hernandez Govan, on November 17, 2021, in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the finding of this indictment, did unlawfully, intentionally, and with premeditation kill Adolph Thornton Jr. in violation of Tennessee Code annotated 3913-202 against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee, again signed by the District Attorney General for the 30th Judicial District. Count 3. State of Tennessee, Criminal Court, Shelby County, September term 2022. The grand jurors of the state of Tennessee, duly selected and paneled, sworn and charged to inquire for the body of the county of Shelby, Tennessee, upon their oath, presented Justin Johnson, also known as Straight Drop, on November 17, 2021, in Shelby County, Tennessee, and before the filing of this indictment, did unlawfully and knowingly possess a firearm, having been convicted of a felony offense that qualifies under Tennessee Code annotated 3917-1307B1A on May the 2nd, 2017, in Division 8 of the Criminal Court of Shelby County, Tennessee, under docket number W17000355, in violation of Tennessee Code annotated 3917-1307 against the peace and dignity of the state of Tennessee. Going in reverse order, that third count was convicted felon in possession of a firearm, that second count was murder in the first degree, and that first count, long one, was conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree. It's signed by the foreperson of the grand jury, a true bill having been returned on November the 10th of 2022.
Mr. Justin Johnson, how do you plead?
Yeah, not to mention, Sean makes a great point. He says, you think Atlanta's small, Memphis is much smaller, word travels quickly and did after Dolph's death. Yeah, not to mention, this isn't a RICO trial too. So, I mean, it's pretty simple to narrow down and pin down one person. Even we've seen in the RICO trial, they've got so much information on Woody, on Moncton, on Quindarius Zachary. So they've got evidence on pretty much everybody. The issue they're having is tied in all to Young Thug, which we haven't seen yet. So these type of cases, it seems like it's going to be pretty straightforward.
Mr. Johnson, please not guilty.
Thank you.
And welcome to Memphis. Two things first. I told you last week, there's going to be cameras, there's going to be TV cameras, you hear them clicking, right now. When you stood up to take the oath, you probably heard them clicking too. But like we told you last week, and what the judge has instructed each and every one of them, is they cannot film y'all at all. When those cameras were clicking when you stood up to take the oath, they were taking pictures of the judge. As I'm talking to you now, they're taking pictures of me, but not y'all at all. Not at all. Second thing, like I told you last week, we don't have the big windows looking out into the city. We don't have the fancy wood benches in the back. Our room is a third of the size of what we were in last week. That wood behind it, probably not even wood. We got a lot of carpet. We got a lot of carpet. But in Memphis talk, we still call this a courtroom. And in this courtroom, the words we talked about last week, presumption of innocence, elements of cases, charges, criminal responsibility, they're not just words. They're the law, and we take an oath to take them seriously and to follow them, even without the fancy wood benches or the big windows. We call this a courtroom. And in here, our job is to apply the law to the facts and to do what's right. Welcome to Memphis. Welcome to Memphis, November the 17th of 2021, in the middle of the afternoon, just after noon, about 12:20, 12:21, 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon.
And these are opening statements right now, by the way. I don't know why they don't have the camera on the attorney. I'm going to see if I can get y'all some closed caption, because he's mumbling like a bitch. Woo-wee. Here we go.
Yes, sir. You can stop there. Can everybody see it? Yes, sir. This is Memphis, Tennessee. This neighborhood is close to the airport. It's called Orange Mound. It is a historic neighborhood in Memphis. It's one of the first predominantly black neighborhoods that had so much history, so much art and culture, and such significance that it used to be compared to Harlem in New York City. There was a time when it was particularly vibrant. Had theater, arts. It's an important neighborhood in Memphis. It is less than 15 minutes from this building. Like I said, it's by the airport. In the 80s and 90s, it became riddled with crime, with drugs, with poverty, with gangs. It is trying hard nowadays to make a resurgence, to go back to what it was. There are families that have lived there for decades, generations. There are businesses and other things that have been there for decades. What we're looking at here is one of those Memphis businesses, a family business. This is the storefront of Makita's Cookies. This is the front of the store.
Sad,
this is his
man.
parking lot in front of it. Makita's Cookies. They sell butter cookies, basically. Some have icing on them. This is a simple butter cookie. People say they're real good. In Memphis, they say they're fire. So we got a cookie store that sells fire butter cookies in the middle of the day at 12:21 in the afternoon.
Mr. Harris, you're standing in front of
Thank you, Tricia.
So there's young Dolph pulling up.
You can stop it here.
Which, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know what's going on with the sound and why it sounds like we're in a wind tunnel, but that's weird.
All right. So in 2021, people thought that was like a Lamborghini or something because they hadn't seen the new Corvettes yet, really. They weren't around. That is, in fact, one of those new Corvettes. It has a special wrap on it, is what they call that. It's not something you can buy from the dealership. You have to get that done yourself. Well, here, that's a special wrap that the Memphis rapper, artist, Young Dolph, had on several of his vehicles. times in this video, we'll just have to wait. But it's a matter of seconds, and it's the last seconds of his life, so we can wait for him.
And the crazy thing is, and we'll find this out later, is they knew they were being followed. This is even more sad.
You'll stop there first. All right. This taller man here in the yellow shirt, blue jeans, white shoes.
That's
His
Dolph.
name is Adolph Thornton Jr. You've heard me read it a couple times now. He grew up in Memphis. The neighborhood he grew up in was Castalia, not terribly far from this, also a neighborhood in South Memphis. You'll see a member of his family testify this week. She'll tell you a little bit about his background and his family. I'll tell you a little bit about him right now, though. He is an ambitious young man who is a rapper.
He's doing a lot for the community too.
Who rapped about the things that he saw growing up and that he sees in his neighborhood in Memphis. Some of that is drugs. Some of that is violence. Some of that is crime. Some of that is gangs. Whether or not we agree or disagree as to whether or not that subject matter, are things we should be listening to or not, I can assure you, it's real. He rapped about stuff that was real. He rapped about stuff that was real. And one of the things that meant everything to him in terms of what is real is he wanted to make it for himself. He wanted to make it for himself. He wasn't interested. He wasn't interested in joining others. It was all about making it himself. He felt like when he grew up, he called it his come up. That's what he called it, his come up. That it was rough and hard, but it was important that he got through it himself and he wanted to make it for himself. And he made it for himself as a rapper, as an artist. Young Dolph.
Yeah.
Became famous. Shortened to Dolph. Very famous. Wanted to make it by himself. Wanted to be self-made. But it wasn't just about him. Because he also wanted a record label. He wanted to promote other artists. He wanted to make them famous. And so he started not just his own rap career, but a record label that's called Paper Route Empire. Paper route. Like a young man or woman would have to make money on the side throwing papers. But also a play on the word paper. Because in Memphis, slang for money is paper. Is sometimes abbreviated PRE, Paper Route Empire. And that is Dolph and the rappers that he promoted. Trying to make it on your own is obviously hard. In this game, trying to make it on your own can create enemies. PRE, Paper Route Empire, his label, is not the only label in Memphis. He's not the only famous rapper in Memphis. Another label,
one of the biggest though.
CMG, Cocaine Music Group. And they became an enemy. They wanted Dolph under their label. But he turned down millions. I want to do it myself. The second time, they wanted Dolph under their label. But he turned down many millions. I want to do it myself. And in this game, whether it's smart or not, there are things called, in Memphis, we call them diss tracks, D-I-S-S. A rap where I may insult, level whatever sort of insults and everything else I want to in the song itself. And Dolph had plenty of those.
It's sad. It's
Plenty of
sad.
those directed at this other
Man.
label, the Cocaine Music Group, at their artist, and at their number 2 person. His name is Big Joke, the number 2 person of Cocaine Music Group. Through the years, and I'm talking years before what we're going to watch, having nothing to do with Mr. Johnson on trial, there were highly publicized incidents of violence directed by CMG against Dolph. He even wrote songs about it. Bulletproof, 100 rounds. And he also spewed out the disses and the insults.
Yeah, here's the thing, man. Y'all got to think about this. I see what y'all are saying about the security and about this being prevented. If someone wants you dead, you're going to be dead. From the president of the United States all the way on down. I mean, unless you just don't go anywhere, you stay in the house, and even then, it's going to be hard to prevent. It's just, if someone wants you dead, there's not much you can do. It's Dolph walking in.
This man here got out of the car with Dolph.
That's Dolph's brother,
That's his
Marcus.
brother. His name's Marcus Thornton. His brother, his friend. This thing that we're about to watch has had a terrible impact on Marcus. Not just his brother and his friend, but he also works security for them. In fact, as Marcus walks in this cookie store, he has a gun on this person, and he has another gun in the car. Dolph is well aware of the threats and the violence from CMG that were constantly hanging over him and his people. We'll wait 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, Freddie, you can't relax. There they go.
That car that just drove up came
Terrible.
to this side of the parking lot. It had actually been following Dolph on the street when Dolph turned it and it went up to this light where it got stopped for a few seconds and then came around. It's a white Mercedes. There's other pictures where you'll be able to see it more clearly. But it's a white Mercedes with back end damage back here on the back passenger side of the car. It's a stolen car. It's a stolen car that our defendant here, Justin Johnson, traded for one car for another at a gas station about 10 hours before this murder happened. This man got out of the passenger side of the white Mercedes. Door was still open. We saw him run to the parking lot. He's here with a
Draco.
large semi-automatic weapon. He's in a hoodie, he's got sweatpants, and he's got white shoes. We'll see a second man come out of the car too. Those two men that we're gonna see come out of the car, they're gonna gun Dolph down. He's inside the business. He has walked over to sort of where the bathrooms are in the business. He's as close as I am to y'all. There's the
Terrible.
window, and he's getting shot through the window. Both of these men will shoot. This one in particular, it looks like he's never shot this type of gun before. It's because he probably hadn't. The second man out of the car who's driving is our defendant, Justin Johnson. Neither one of these men are professional hitmen. It looks like they don't take tactical shooting stances because they don't. Let's watch Mr. Johnson get out of the car. Can you stop it here? This is Dolph here. Remember, he was
Y'all
wearing...
see him holding the gun, shaking back and forth. He's probably never shot that thing before. And then you see Marcus, he emptied the clip already, which I want to go back and see. It's going to be hard to see because I've got it at 1.2, I think. But I don't know how Marcus emptied his clip that fast. Unless the gun just jammed.
Let's watch Mr. Johnson get out of the car.
Because you'll probably be able to see the shots. Yeah, let me see. So there's...
Let's watch Mr. Johnson get out of the car.
So you see there's shots coming out here. It's probably where they got hit. There's shots coming out. Dang, man. Marcus was... I don't know what he was shooting at, but he was trying to get headshots apparently. Because you see shots fired up here.
Let's watch Mr. Johnson get out of the car.
Watch it. It's quick, but you see it right here. Bang, 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 bang.
Stop it here. This is Dolph here. Remember, he was wearing the yellow.
Yeah.
This is Marcus. Remember, I told you he had a gun. He tries to return fire as these two men quickly shoot Dolph. Dolph's body's riddled with bullets. He shot all in the back, in the face, in the neck, in his arms.
I think he had a switch on it.
The first man out was Cornelius Smith, and he has that semi-automatic weapon, shooting wildly into Dolph. The second man out is Justin Johnson, who has a handgun. He's firing at Dolph as he lays on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, if these guys would just learn, well, I'm not going to give advice to dudes doing this type of thing, but if they would just learn how to actually shoot, you wouldn't need a switch. It's a waste. You might get one shot to land unless you're at super close range. If you just learn how to shoot and have proper form. But anyway, I hope they don't. I hope they keep missing.
Back once he hears the shots. Now we see him emerge from the building. Can't tell in the video, but Marcus actually hits Cornelius in the shoulder. Shoot back.
They have that deer gun.
I'm going to spend some time on two things. This Mercedes, these two people, Justin and Cornelius, they didn't fall out of the sky on a Wednesday at 12:20 in the afternoon at a cookie store. They had been looking, they had followed them, and for them, it's just business. This was just business. They don't even know each other that well. Let's start with Cornelius. Cornelius is from this neighborhood, Orange Mountain. He's in his early 30s now. Cornelius has had serious drug problem. He does ecstasy and Percocet. He gets his drugs over on Bradley Street, just over 2 miles from the scene, from a man whose name you have heard, Hernandez Goga. They don't call him that, though. They call him Quet. His middle name's Marquette, and it's shortened to Quet. So Cornelius gives his drugs.
Yeah, switches are so dumb.
Quet is what in Memphis we call an old head, older guy, lives in the neighborhood, lifelong criminal, in and out of jail through the years. Quet sells drugs. Quet gambles on sports like crazy, online sports stuff. And then Quet tries to identify young rappers and tries to shop them to CMG, hoping to get a cut, hoping to hit it big. Years ago, he and his brother missed out on one of those big rappers. But Quet knew a young rapper who he was in the process of shopping to CMG. And that young rapper is Justin Johnson, who goes by Straight Drop. Sometimes I just call him Drop. So Quet's the kind of person. He knows Cornelius from the neighborhood, knows him well, sells him drugs. He knows Justin Johnson. He's trying to get him to be the next CMG rapper. But not just that.
All this over a rapper.
The business is not just rap. Because Big Chook, the person I told you about before, the number 2 guy at CMG, he's put out a hit. A hit. $100,000 to whoever kills Dolph.
Dang.
He has met with Justin. He has met with Cornelius. And they think they're ready to do it.
Wow.
They're definitely willing to do it. For Cornelius, it would be 50 grand, I guess, that he could waste away on Percocets and ecstasy. For Justin, it's 50 grand, but also a chance to make it big with CMG. To become the next famous.
So Justin was trying to become an artist under CMG. And then of course, Mr. Govan, he's the one who set up and facilitated this entire thing. Sad, man.
To become the next famous Memphis rapper. Straight Drop. They were sent here. They were sent here. But not professional hitmen. Not even monsters. I'm not going to call anybody a monster. This is just business for these two. Money
It's
for
just
Cornelius,
business.
money and rap fame for Justin Johnson. They did the best they could, really. Stolen car. Better to use a stolen car that can't be traced back to me. When we still shot the video, you'll see that they're wearing gloves. Afterwards, the guns get disappeared. The car gets ditched in a neighborhood and wiped down and moved and wiped down and moved. Their plan is to go their separate ways and just disappear into Memphis. They did the best they could. I guess I could have gotten away with it. If you get the guns gone, if you get the car wiped down, get the car hidden for long enough, you're wearing masks, you're wearing hoodies, you're wearing gloves. Do it so quick, but it takes seconds. You get in, you get out, you get separate, you get disappear, and I guess you get away with it.
That's what it seemed like. Not in Memphis, they said.
There's a problem there. Still staring at us. One of the big problems. It's not 1981. It's not 1991. It's not even 2001 when I started this building. It's 2021. It's 2021. And what I started talking to you about when I first stood up, what you didn't think about, what we don't think about, almost ever anymore. These places have cameras. Places have cameras. It's a hotel lobby. It's walking into the building. It's this courtroom now. A lot of places that have cameras. And also what we don't think about, we didn't have to in 1981 or 91, whatever, is we carry phones around. Phones that can give people clues as to where we were. what was going on. We
Yeah.
can wipe down cars. We can use stolen cars. We can get rid of guns. We can disappear in the neighborhoods. We can separate from each other. But it's 2021. And I guess I didn't think about that. Can we back up the video about 3 or 4 seconds? All right, we can stop there. All right, so what we saw before was this man first. Remember the one with the automatic weapon, the larger of the 2 weapons? He got out of the car first from the passenger side. He ran around and shot the gun wildly into Dolph. We're concerned in this trial. Now, Mr. Smith is charged with murder too. So is Mr. Govan. Then we've heard that Jamarcus is charged with conspiracy, but in this trial, this is Justin Johnson's trial. This is Justin Johnson. He is wearing tennis shoes that have white soles. You see this one better in this shot.
Yep.
White soles, they're black with a little white stripe. There are times in the video where you can see his socks, and they're white socks. He's wearing gray sweatpants. In fact, there's angles in the video that you can see that this gray sweatpant on this left leg has a little silver-like emblem on it, real small, it's shiny sometimes. He's wearing gloves. See it maybe better there. He's wearing a black hoodie. He's wearing a mask, and he's wearing a Bass Pro hat. All right, so black tennis shoes, the white sole, white stripe up the middle of the tennis shoes.
Saying anything
White
about
socks.
the hit is
Gray
still
sweatpants.
alive.
There is a little emblem that you can see in some angles on the leg. Black hoodie. Here during the shooting, he's wearing a mask, and he's got a Bass Pro hat. Bass Pro store is only not even a quarter of a mile from where we're sitting, right here. There's other angles and other still shots where you can clearly see it's a Bass Pro hat. And there's other angles where you can see the little emblem that he has on his sweatpants.
Yeah, quick question. Miss 2T says, ClassE, you think he would be saying anything about the hit if Big Jook was still alive? Just a question, does he have a deal? I think what would happen if Jook was still alive is he would be indicted in some way, because it seems like these guys are singing in this entire trial and they're not holding anything back. And 2, Yo Gotti would probably be facing some charges as well. Most likely, because obviously we know there was some of y'all might know there was a situation there in a back and forth, and they had Dolph and Gotti had issues too. So they might look deeper into that.
Call him video here.
I think they would.
There's a building in Memphis. This happens in the historic neighborhood itself, Orange Mountain. But there's a building in Memphis, it's a historic building. There's only like 10 or 12 of these buildings in the whole United States. They used to be, back 7 years ago, Sears buildings, okay? Huge. Largest square foot building in Memphis.
True,
for
but
many years.
oh shoot, my bad, y'all.
At the time, Sears was sort of like Amazon before Amazon existed. Because these big warehouse buildings and everything, you come and place your orders, and they say, it was quite sort of an amazing thing. The need for those buildings went away. In Memphis, the building was abandoned for decades. They have pictures of it, abandoned. It was crazy, dude. It was the largest square foot building in Memphis, and it was abandoned. In other cities, there were 10 or 12 of these things. Some were abandoned, some were actually even torn down.
That's true.
But a few were repurposed. And in Memphis, over the last 15 years, ours was repurposed and renovated and redone. Amazing building now. It has a high school in it. It has restaurants in it. It has businesses in it. It has a YMCA in it. It has a brewery in it. It has all sorts of things in it. It also has apartments in it. It has 4 floors of apartments. So when you live here, it is a nice place to live. He lives sort of like in a shopping mall with restaurants and everything else, right there. Okay. Justin Johnson, 2021, has a mother and a sister that have apartments in that building. The building is 12 stories high. Huge footprint. November 17th, 2021. This is less than an hour before the killing. This is Justin Johnson in the elevator, leaving the building about an hour, really less than an hour, before the killing. Black tennis shoes, white soles, white stripe up the middle, gray sweatpants, black hoodie, Bass Pro hat. In fact, we'll see picture after picture and video after video. It's the same outfit he was wearing the night before. We'll see him in this outfit from 2 o'clock in the morning, same day, all the way up to leaving the building right before the killing. The exact same outfit as that man in the video. I guess as to what kind of car he got caught leaving it at the parking garage of this building.
He's telling the whole story.
White Mercedes with back end damage, just like the one you see in the video, less than an hour before. You can get rid of guns, you can wipe down cars, you can disappear in neighborhoods, but it's not 1981, it's 2021. And from 2 o'clock that morning to 12:23 the same day, he is caught. Again and again. And it's not just before the murder.
What?
Cornelius got shot. Can't tell the video. He got shot in the shoulder. He needs medical attention, or at least need somebody to look at it. You'll see the text messages. You'll see the phone location type stuff. You'll see that Mr. Johnson and Mr. Smith, after they ditch the car in the neighborhood, they have another car waiting. That they go over to Mr. Johnson's cousin's apartment. An apartment complex that used to be called the Two-Lane Apartments here. Now it's called the Gospel Gardens Apartments.
Yeah, he's telling the story.
We're talking within 45 minutes of the killing. So we have the killing. Cornelius gets shot, ditch the car, get in Johnson's other car, and we go to Johnson's cousin's apartment, 2 lanes. So they can try to bandage up Cornelius. So Johnson can change his clothes. So they can try to get away and disappear. How do we know that? Well, their phones, but not just their phones, because again, it's not 1981. That apartment complex has video. You see them arrive in Johnson's other car, which is a white Expedition. You see them from a distance walking into the apartment complex.
I agree,
See
Bob.
Johnson's cousin directing them where to go. You see at this point Cornelius has his shirt pulled up weirdly because he's been shot in the shoulder. You see Johnson wearing the same clothes.
What is this? What are you thinking as this defense team? What's the move here? I mean, obviously, from what we're seeing, I can't imagine you would get a not guilty verdict in this case, but I don't know what the play is here. Just to get as little time as possible.
Pants, the black shoes, the black hoodie, the Bass
A
Pro
plea.
hat. You see him go inside the apartment. At some point you see Johnson come out. Someone else has brought him a change of clothes. You see Johnson get inside that car, inside the back seat of his friend's car, and change his clothes. No longer in the murder outfit. And you see them leave. To disappear almost. Because later that night, we see Johnson back at that big building called Crosstown. He's in his new clothes that his friend brought him at the apartment complex. And he goes to his apartment, and he packs up, and you'll see him at the elevator with his suitcase and everything else, ready to get the heck out of town.
Yep.
The contract hit a big joke. The hitman found and solicited a Hernandez Gomez, who they caught left. The hitman, a druggie from the neighborhood, Cornelius, and the aspiring young rapper, straight drop. And they could have gotten away with it, but they didn't. What we watch up here is so quick. And we watch it and we call it violence. That's a man with a family.
Yeah,
and with a
it's
wife
tough.
Who's laying at the edge there in the yellow, riddled with bullets, dead. We watch that and we call it violence. For Cornelius Smith and for Justin Johnson, it was just business. They call it business. What we do here this week, in here, we'll see the video plenty of times. We'll see the crosstown videos, the apartment videos, we see still shots and everything else. What we do here this week together is not violence and it is not business, it's justice. And at the end of this, you will see that both Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson are caught, and they're both guilty of murder. They're both guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. And Johnson, as he is a prior felon, is also guilty of convicted felon in possession of a handgun. And if being caught on video is not enough for you, you'll also hear it from Cornelius Smith's mouth. That's me with the assault rifle killing Dolph. And that's Justin with a handgun with me killing Dolph. Even if he realizes he's just called.
Thank you, sir.
Great opening statements by the prosecution. Yeesh.